This is Andy 2, and this is part 32 of my Singer Model 404 restoration series. And in part 32, I'm going to show how I wind the bobbin, and I'm going to talk about the bobbins and the associated bobbin winding parts. The original bobbin that came with this machine is a class 66, and it was metal, it was steel, and it has 3 large holes that were to view the fill of the thread, how full the bobbin was, and it had 1 small hole very close to the middle spindle hole that was the thread exit hole. And later they started issuing the machines also with the plastic bobbin. They have the same part number, 172222, and the plastic one they had a P on the end, so 172222P. I prefer the plastic. The metal tends to wear the bobbin holder, and I don't want to have to replace it, and I don't know in the future if I'll be able to find good used bobbin holders. So I use the plastic, but you use whichever you prefer. This is the bobbin area spool pin and felt to help hold your spool of thread, and this is the bobbin winder tension disc that holds the right amount of tension between that disc and the bracket to wind the bobbin properly. And they don't really say if the thread should come from the left and the bobbin spool turn counterclockwise, or if it should come from the right and the spool turn clockwise. This is how I prefer it, coming off the right and clipping between that bobbin tension disc, bobbin winder tension disc, and the bracket. Now, they say to put the bobbin on the spindle up here and then put the thread through it, but I find it more convenient to go between the 2 sides and have the thread go in there and exit out the thread exit hole, the little hole that's next to the spindle. If you find it easier to put the bobbin on the spindle and then put the thread through, whatever works. Here's the bobbin winder frame. This is the spindle. This is the friction ring or rubber tire. So you just push the bobbin all the way onto the spindle, and then you hold about 3 or 4 inches of thread out, and you push the frame up towards the hand wheel so the friction ring makes contact with the hand wheel. Then you rotate, or I'm going to rotate to show you. You need to release the stop motion nut. So I just hold on to the hand wheel with one hand and grab that chrome nut and turn it towards me or left, that little quarter turn to unlock it. So we've taken the pressure off the clamp washer in there, so that when we run the motor, it will run the hand wheel, which will turn the friction ring, which will turn the spindle, which will wind your bobbin. But it will not turn the rotary hook or the needle. The thing to do with this is to hold the thread until it starts winding a few turns. Then you can let the thread go or pull it up and break it off. But the thing to do is to wind it at a moderate speed. And whatever speed you pick, try and keep it there. Because the thread's going to go back and forth and back and forth, and you want a real even wind. You don't want it tight, you don't want it overlapping. So just pick a moderate speed. Do not go full blast. Just pick a moderate speed and stay with it. And let the thread go back and forth and back and forth. I think you get the idea. I'm not going to fill the whole bobbin. But what you want to watch for is that the thread does go on the bobbin evenly, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. If it starts piling up on one side or the other, that means that your tension disc bracket is out of alignment. That's why there's a little screw right here that holds that, and it allows you to loosen that screw and move the bracket left to right, and then retighten the screw. So if your bobbin was winding up here, piling up kind of on the left more than the right, you would want to move the tension disc a little bit to the right, and vice versa. If your thread's piling up here on the right side of the bobbin, that means your tension disc is too far right. So loosen the screw, move it left a little bit, tighten it back up, and go for it. Because you want a very even winding of that bobbin. You want the thread to be not pinched in there, not over tightened. You want it very even. So that's kind of the overview. And I talked about adjusting this. Now for those of you that like an automatic stop, for those of you who like an automatic stop when the bobbin is full, this bobbin winder stop, that's what this is for. This little triangle of metal up here. And it also has a screw that you can loosen and slide that up and down so that you can set it to how full you want the bobbin to be. And the way my wife does it is she winds a bobbin manually to the point that she wants it to be, and if she's going to be doing a lot of that, she will lower it down, loosen the screw, put this back up, and she'll start moving that bracket down until it pushes the frame away from the tire, because that's all it does to stop. As the thread fills, it starts pushing against the stop, but the stop isn't going anywhere, so it starts pushing the frame and bobbin away from the wheel to the point that the friction ring doesn't make contact and the bobbin stops turning. So that is there. Usually she just fills the bobbin to the point she wants to fill it. So, and then of course when you're done, you want to re-engage the stop motion nut. So you hold the hand wheel and you turn that nut, the chrome nut, back to the right to lock it. So you can sew. Then the last thing I want to mention about bobbins is don't multiple wind bobbins. What I mean is, I wound this about half full of this, I don't know, rose-colored thread, and let's say that I needed to have black thread on a bobbin now, and I didn't have any empty bobbins. So I said, oh, I'll just put this on and run black thread on top of this rose thread. That usually leads to problems because you don't really get a good wind, and when that thread is coming off the bobbin and the needle thread's wrapping around it, when you're sewing, you want that bobbin to turn and the thread to release real nice. So if you have to do that, buy more bobbins. They're like 50 cents each, or take that rose thread off of there. I hate to waste thread, but it's more expensive than the bobbin, I know. That's why it's better to have extra bobbins. But you'd be surprised how many machines I have fixed by just taking a bobbin and winding fresh thread on it in the moderate speed and put in there, and all of a sudden no more skipped stitches, no more thread jams. So that's the last of that advice about the winding bobbins. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care.